welcome to the Room of Requirement. I have some brand new videos for the month of May. I'm super excited to bring you guys a bunch of new content that I think is going to be good for every one of you. So today I'm going to be doing how to build a real spiritual path today. So this is going to be from beginner to advanced without confusion. So make sure that you stick around till the last part of the video because I'm going to go through for 30 days what to do, what you're going to expect, all of those things. So just hang in there for that. But I'm going to go through the different recognition points and kind of explain what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so why most practitioners never go deep. There is a pattern that repeats across nearly every level of spiritual practice, and it is rarely addressed directly. Beginners often feel overwhelmed by the number of paths available, unsure where to start or what is actually effective. At the same time, more advanced practitioners, those who have studied, practiced, and experienced a great deal, often find themselves in a different kind of uncertainty. They have knowledge, they have experience, but something is still not fully coherent. Both are experiencing the same problem. It's not a lack of effort, and it's not a lack of intelligence, but a lack of structure. And without structure, no matter where you are on the path, depth does not form. And we all start out this way, right? When we're starting a new path, this is completely normal. Okay, so the modern practitioner exists in a unique position. You have access to systems that were once hidden, practices that were once restricted, and knowledge that once required years to obtain. Now you can study meditation, ritual magic, energy systems, philosophy, and mysticism all at once. But what has not been given alongside the access is the structure that made these systems effective. Okay, all that stuff gets left out. So this creates a paradox. The more you explore, the more you encounter, but the harder it becomes to form something stable. And without a clear structure, practice becomes movement without direction, and experience becomes information without integration, because you're just not aware of what everything is doing. So I'm going to get more in depth with this in my next video on how spiritual practice affects you psychologically, because it always happens psychologically first, and then it comes into manifestation in your practice. So okay, so a path is built, not found. A real spiritual path is not something you simply discover fully formed. It is something that is constructed over time through continuity, discipline, and integration. This applies whether you are just beginning or you have been practicing for years. And I went through this myself. I was doing a bunch of different things all at once, but once I landed on a complete structure, that's when the whole world just opened up for me and it really started to work. So that's what I'm talking about here is you need all that stuff in the beginning. You need to learn all of these things, but at some point you have to just sit down and figure out, okay, I'm going to do this and stick with it. And the structure is what gets the gold. Okay. So for those starting, the challenge is not knowing where to begin. For those more experienced, the challenge is that too many directions have already been explored without consolidation. So in both cases, the solution is the same. A path must be built. You may recognize yourself in one of two positions. You may feel like you are at the beginning, unsure which system is right, hesitant to commit, and trying to understand what actually works. Or you may feel like you have explored extensively different practices, different systems, different experiences, but when you step back, there is no clear structure holding it all together. So both are forms of the same issue, lack of coherent construction. Where to start? Okay, so the first step is simplicity, and that is highly underrated. The beginning of a real path is not complexity, it's simplification. The first step is to reduce the number of variables you are working with so that something stable can form. This means choosing a primary orientation, so whatever that is, but not necessarily a permanent commitment, but a central framework that you will operate within for a period of time. Okay, this is very, very important. This could be contemplative practice, ritual structure, devotional focus, or philosophical inquiry. The key is not choosing perfectly. The key is choosing something you will remain with. Starting without structure versus starting with structure. So a beginner without structure explores multiple systems at once, trying meditation, ritual, and energy work simultaneously. And I was guilty of this back in the day. I absolutely was. So without understanding how they relate, this creates confusion early. So a beginner with structure selects a single primary practice, such as meditation or basic ritual, and commit to it consistently. Over time, this builds familiarity, stability, and sensitivity, and the difference is not knowledge, it's continuity. Establishing foundational practice. Once a direction is chosen, the next step is to establish foundational practice. This is the core of the path and should be simple enough to repeat consistently. This may include daily meditation, structured breathwork, a basic ritual sequence, or consistent contemplative reflection. The purpose is not immediate transformation, but stabilization of attention and perception. Okay, so you need to be able to focus. Advanced practitioners often overlook this step, believing they have moved beyond it. But without a stable foundation, more complex practices do not integrate, they accumulate. Many practitioners believe progress comes from advancement, adding more practices, learning more systems, increasing intensity, but real progress often comes from repetition, doing the same thing long enough for it to change you. And in the modern world, this is very hard because we're taught in spirituality, especially modern spirituality, that go, 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 try everything, under the sun, try for the intense experiences, all of this stuff. So that's what's kind of happened in the culture, magic culture. It's kind of shifted, right? In modern spirituality, everything is shifted and geared towards fast results, right? So we need to rein that in a little bit. So that's the main problem, why things aren't becoming as coherent as they need to be. Okay, so the second component is choosing a framework for interpretation. So every path requires a framework for interpreting experience. Without this, experiences are either dismissed or overvalued. If you are working within a contemplative system, experiences are interpreted through awareness and perception. If you are working within ritual magic, they are interpreted symbolically. If you are working devotionally, they are interpreted rationally or relationally. So this framework does not need to be perfect, but it must become consistent. A practitioner experiences a sense of presence during ritual and assumes it's external. Another experiences the same phenomena and assume it's internal. So without a framework, both interpretations remain unstable. And this happens because a lot of us do not have teachers anymore. We are all solo practitioners, and we are just trying to stumble and find our way through all of this. And so it's not really our fault. It's just the culture has changed, okay? So a practitioner working within a structured system recognizes the experience as part of the known stage and continues practice without conclusion. The difference is not the experience. It is the interpretive structure. The third component, limiting fragmentation. A real path requires limitation. This means reducing how many systems are actively practiced at one time. While study can remain broad, practice must remain narrow. Fragmentation occurs when multiple systems are practiced simultaneously without integration. This divides attention and prevents depth from forming. Containment allows coherence, and coherence allows development. A practitioner actively engages in multiple systems, experiencing different results but unable to integrate them. Another studies multiple systems but practices one consistently, allowing understanding to deepen within a stable structure. One becomes scattered and the other becomes structured. The fourth component, interpreting through time. Experience should not be interpreted immediately. Meaning often reveals itself over time through repetition, pattern, and integration. A meaningful experience will continue to unfold. It will connect to the later understanding. It will produce changes in perception or behavior. A transient experience will fade, and time clarifies its meaning. Immediate interpretation distorts it. So sit with it for a while once you have a spiritual experience. I had to train myself to do this instead of just assuming what it was, because more than likely it wasn't what I thought it was, because I had, a distorted perception. The fifth component, integration as the measure of progress. Progress is not measured by intensity of experience, but by integration. This means what becomes stable within you, how you perceive, how you respond, and how you maintain consistency. A practitioner who becomes more stable, less reactive, and more coherent is progressing, even if their experiences are subtle. A practitioner who has intense experiences but remains unstable is not. Integration is the difference between movement and transformation. The sixth component, discipline as structure. Discipline provides the structure necessary for development. Without it, practice becomes inconsistent and dependent on mood or motivation. With discipline, practice becomes stable regardless of internal fluctuation. The stability is what allows deeper transformation to occur. An esoteric frame, vessel and current. From an esoteric perspective, the practitioner is the vessel, and the practice are the current. If the vessel is unstable, increasing the current leads to distortion rather than transformation. Modern spirituality often emphasizes increasing this current. More experience, more energy, more intensity, without strengthening the vessel. Ancient systems focused on building this vessel first, only then increasing the current. A real spiritual path is built through simplicity, repetition, limitation, and integration. It is not constructed through accumulation, intensity, or constant change. Whether you are beginning or continuing, the principle remains the same. Stability creates depth. You do not need more information. You do not need more systems. You need more structure. The path becomes real not when you find the perfect system, but when you remain with something long enough for it to take shape. Because what you are building is not just a practice. You are building something that eventually becomes stable, coherent, and self-sustaining. And that is where the path truly begins to reveal itself. 30-day structured starting protocol. So now we're going to get into 30 days. I'm going to go week by week and tell you what that feels like and then some challenges that you may experience. Okay, so building the foundation of a real path. The purpose of this 30-day structure is not to produce dramatic experiences, but to establish stability, continuity, and sensitivity. It is designed to work for both those beginning and those who need to rebuild structure after fragmentation. The goal is simple. Choose, stabilize, observe, integrate. Nothing in this structure is complex, but everything in it is intentional. Days 1 through 7. Establishing contact with practice. During the first 7 days, the objective is consistency, not depth. Choose one primary practice, meditation, breath work, or simple structured ritual, whatever it is for you that you want to try, and perform it daily at the same time if possible. The duration should remain modest, between 10 and 20 minutes, to ensure it is sustainable. The focus is not on achieving a result, but on establishing contact with the act of the practice itself. I would highly recommend not doing any more than 10, 15 to 20 a day. 20 is kind of pushing it when you're first starting out, because you want to make these goals realistic, okay? Especially when you're first starting out. You can always do these things longer down the line. Okay, circling back. So at this stage, the practitioner will encounter resistance. The mind will wander, the body will feel restless, and the practice may feel uneventful or ineffective. That is not the problem. It is the exposure of instability that is already present within you. So simply returning to the practice each day begins to build the first layer of structure. Days 8 through 14, stabilizing attention and awareness. During the second week, the practice remains the same, but the emphasis shifts towards observation. Rather than trying to improve the experience, begin to notice patterns, how the mind behaves, how attention fluctuates, how the body responds. This is where sensitivity begins to develop. You may begin to notice subtle shifts, brief moments of stillness, increased awareness of thought, or small changes in perception. These should not be pursued or interpreted at this point. They are indicators that the system is responding, and that's all you need to know at that point. The task remains the same. Show up, perform the practice, and observe without conclusion. Days 15 to the 21st, okay? Introducing containment and limitation. At this stage, the practitioner must begin limiting fragmentation. Reduce exposure to new systems, new techniques, and excessive information. Continue studying if desired, but do not introduce new active practices at this time. The focus is on containment, allowing what has already been introduced to deepen. This is often where restlessness increases. The desire to add something new becomes stronger. This is not intuition. It is the mind seeking stimulation. Remaining with the same structure during this phase builds depth where previously there would have been more movement. Days 22 to 30. Integration and subtle recognition. During the final stage, the practitioner begins to notice what has changed, not in the terms of experience, but in terms of stability. Attention may be slightly more consistent. Reactions may soften. Awareness may feel more present in daily life. These shifts are subtle, but they are all the beginning of real transformation. If experiences occur during this time, moments of stillness, symbolic imagery, or emotional shifts, this should be acknowledged but not emphasized. What matters is whether something is becoming stable. Integration is measured by what remains, not what appears. By the end of the 30 days, the practitioner has completed a path, but they have done something more important. They have established the first layer of structure upon which a real path can be built. At this point, the practitioner is no longer asking where to begin. They have already begun. The moment of decision. Most people spend years searching for the right path, the right system, or the right experience. Believing clarity will come before commitment, but clarity does not come before the path. It comes from walking it. There comes a point where the search has to end, not because there is nothing left to explore, but because nothing real will form until you stop moving and begin building. You don't need more information, more systems, and another experience to confirm this. You need to begin simply and directly by choosing something and returning to it consistently, over and over, remaining with it long enough for it to take shape. The path does not reveal itself to those who keep searching. It reveals itself to those who stay. What begins as something small, a few minutes of practice, a moment of stillness, a single act of repeated gradually organizes your perception, your awareness, and your direction until at some point it no longer feels like what you're doing is a practice, but that the practice is shaping you. And over time, without force or intensity, something becomes stable, something becomes clear, and something becomes real. And this is where the path truly begins. Okay, you guys, I hope this has really helped you kind of see where you're at, even if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. It's really important to have structure and consistency. You can still study, you can still do all of those things, but just pick one thing and stick with it. And I guarantee you, if you stick with it for 30 days, you're going to notice a huge difference. So anyway, okay, I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I hope you found it valuable. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I am super excited this month of May to bring you a whole bunch of new content that I haven't done before. So stay tuned for that. Next, it's going to be the psychological effects of spiritual practice and how that affects us on a deeper level. But until then, I will see you guys.